Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
Thank you, Miss Bluth. Episode 8 just came out. At the end of episode 7, Finn was in a coma. I bet he's gonna kick some serious ass when he wakes up. And Rey met Luke Skywalker. Yes, after all this time, Luke Skywalker is back. This is gonna be the best Star War ever. Welcome to another Daniel Reviews, where we continue our deep dives into the Kathleen Kennedy-produced Star Wars movies. With Rogue One good and done and The Force Awakens put back to sleep, the next one on the agenda is... oh boy. The Last Jedi. After the disappointment of Rogue One, I walked into The Last Jedi with a healthy skepticism. Was it justified? Without further ado, let's get into it. After a little bit of further ado, I realize in previous videos I've saved spoilers for the end. For the purpose of narrative flow, I'm going to proceed as though you've seen this movie and call spoilers now. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. We begin with the First Order, attacking the worst named planet ever, D'Qar. Poe Dameron leads the charge in this epic battle, moving his troops into position to destroy the Dreadnought, as the last resistance forces evacuate the base to join the fight. Or so we would think. But then General Leia says,
"You did it, Poe. Now get your squad back here so we can get out of this place."
"Come again, Leia?"
"Disengage now, Commander. That is important."
Got it. So what Leia really wants is for the resistance fighters to board her cruiser so they can run away from the fight. Interesting military strategy. This means she sent these bombers out here to not bomb the Dreadnought. Maybe the plan was to keep the First Order distracted until the base was evacuated, but even if that's the case, it's not like they can evacuate before the Dreadnought is destroyed, seeing as it's positioned to take out the cruiser. And it's not just that they're outmatched. The First Order has always outmatched the Resistance. Hell, Starkiller Base was a much bigger threat than that Dreadnought, but Leia didn't balk at attacking that. So why is she getting all shaking in the knees now? But Poe disobeys the order after some oh-so-hilarious banter with General Hux.
"Tell your precious princess there will be no terms. There will be no surrender.
Hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
We will wipe your filth from the galaxy."
Okay, I'll hold.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, you kill me. You really do.
For the record, he's right to do this, even with the lives it costs. I'm also curious why Leia didn't just call the bombers back herself after she saw that Poe was going rogue. It would have been my next move. Leia demotes Poe from commander to captain, telling him he's no leader, despite the facts of the battle telling a very different story. This comes up again later when Vice-Admiral Holdo reminds Poe of the conversation, leading to the best Star Wars line since the original trilogy.
"Captain, Commander, you can call me whatever you like."
Testify! That line sums up Resistance philosophy in the most succinct way possible. This is not a formal military. These are insurrectionists, not order followers. They are fighting a galactic superpower at great risk to themselves to avoid following its orders. If the troops followed Poe into battle and laid down their lives for the cause, it was because they believed in what he was doing, not because he carried the rank commander. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I love how the captain just looks like, well, shit. Before we go on, I'd like to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor. We interrupt this YouTube video to bring you a TRT News special report. I'm here at Steve's Trading Post, the store boasting the slogan, "Only slightly radioactive," that has recently become heavily radioactive, costing it customers and leading to a slew of online reviews citing the high levels of radioactivity as the reason for the abstinence. We can only assume that people are avoiding the store because of misogyny and racism. More on this story as it develops. We now return you to your video. Eliminate poverty within the next 10 years. And we're back. So Supreme Leader Snoke becomes displeased with General Hux for losing the Resistance fighters and throws him around like a ragdoll, because it's hilarious. Never mind that he didn't actually lose them because, as we later learn, he's tracking them. And track them he does, catching up to them after their hyperspace jump.
They've tracked us through light speed.
That's impossible.
Which raises the question, why is it impossible? If a whole spaceship can go into hyperspace, why is it impossible for the First Order to send a signal through it? But here's the bigger issue. Star Wars is a franchise full of fantasy logic. They have technology with impossible energy demands, light swords that don't work the way light does, space wizards that can use an invisible energy to do whatever they want it to do, and even ghosts that can be replaced with younger actors in the special editions. All of those are fine, except the last one, because this is fantasy. But in a universe where all that exists, is tracking at light speed really where you're going to draw the line in the sand? I don't usually do this, but I'm going to give some life advice. If you ever notice something that doesn't make scientific sense, think to yourself, am I a character in Star Wars? If the answer is yes, that's the reason. Go with it. The cruiser takes heavy damage, and Leia gets sucked out into space. Sorry, that was Leprechaun 4. What really happens is Leia uses the Force to Wicked Witch her way back onto the ship and goes into a coma just after the Finn awakens from his. See what I did there? With Leia out of commission, the obvious choice to replace her is Vice-Admiral Holdo, whom the internet for some reason decided was a lesbian. Holdo was a strict, no-nonsense, condescending, and secretive authority figure. In other words, exactly the kind of person resistance fighters would trust without question. A lot has been said about this character, very little of it favorable. But the truth is, there are ways they could have made her work. Characters like her usually fall into two lanes. The first is that they are dangerous people, and their subordinates eventually have to depose them. A good example of this is General Krell from Clone Wars. Krell is a Jedi officer who believes that clone troopers are expendable, giving orders that needlessly put them in harm's way and getting many of them killed in the process. It becomes clear to the clones that mutiny is necessary, and they rise against him, eventually relieving him of life. Holdo could have been similar. Not in that she's malicious, but in that she does get people killed in pursuit of a plan that makes a lot of assumptions.
Holdo knew the First Order was tracking our big ship. They're not monitoring for little transports.
The second lane is characters who are putting on a front in order to push their subordinates into pushing back. A great example of this is Lieutenant Worf in the Star Trek TNG episode Lower Decks. Worf's protege gets a dressing down from Captain Picard about a transgression in her past. During a training session with Worf, he blindfolds her and tells her she has to best him in a fight to pass the test. He beats the crap out of her. What can I say? He's a Klingon. It isn't until she removes the blindfold and refuses to go on with the test that Worf tells her that's exactly what he wanted her to do, and she needs to realize when she's being treated unfairly before it costs her too much. This also could have worked for Holdo. It could have been that she was giving unreasonable orders to encourage her subordinates to question and, if necessary, confront authority. So which way did they go with her? Yes. Instead of picking a lane and committing to it, they gave us this weird hybrid of both. For most of the movie, she falls firmly into the first category. Follow my orders, don't question me. But then after Leia wakes up, they try to move her into the second category. She says she likes Poe for being a troublemaker. Well, if that's true, why give him such a hard time? Why not tell him that? Hashtag Poe did nothing wrong. Back to Finn. He wakes up from his coma and walks right back into the story like he was never in one, reuniting with his best buddy Poe and wasting no time getting to the question,
Where's Rey?
El Guapo has taken her too.
Sorry, couldn't resist. Remember in The Force Awakens how Finn started out as a First Order deserter, wanting nothing more than to escape, but then eventually joining the Resistance and even taking on Kylo Ren? Rian Johnson apparently doesn't, because at the beginning of this movie, Finn tries to get away from the Resistance. I guess the coma cost him his character development. This is where we meet Class Tattletale and Jar Jar Binks of the sequel trilogy, Rose Tico, who injects Finn with a paralytic and basically places him under arrest for the crime of desertion. Let's consider this. Finn is a man who was basically born into military service to a fascist regime, who eventually escaped and joined the Resistance to fight it, who is now being forced into military service by the Resistance. Think I'm putting it too strongly? Rose says she's done this to others. Why hasn't Leia stopped her by now? We get more top-notch physical comedy as this poor man slowly regains function in his limbs and tries desperately to convince Rose not to take him to Admiral Holdo, winning her over by mentioning that the First Order is tracking them at light speed.
Well, they can track us through light speed.
They can track us through light speed?
They can track you through light speed.
They can track us through light speed.
They can track you through light speed. It's amazing how little these movies think you can remember. This conversation leads to Rose and Finn making some wild assumptions about how the lightspeed tracker works, considering they didn't even think it could exist until now, which results in Finn saying he knows where the lightspeed tracker is because he used to mop the floors on Snoke's ship. They take this information to Poe and C-3PO, and after Zoom calling Maz Kanata on a battlefield, hatch a plan to meet a master codebreaker on that wretched hive of scum and villainy, Canto Bites. Like many of the events in this trilogy, it relies pretty heavily on chance. How do they know that the master codebreaker is going to be willing to help them? Especially since they're not offering him anything to do so. How do they know he's even going to be there? But the worst thing about this whole subplot is that the movie does not end with Finn, Rose, and BB-8 destroying the lightspeed tracker and the Resistance making an escape at light speed. The movie goes exactly as it would if this whole subplot never happened. You could say, well, DJ sold out the Resistance for money, and that's how Hux knows what the plan is. Well, dear viewer, let me ask you this. If you were Hux, following a cruiser through space, waiting for it to run out of fuel, and it suddenly stopped within landing distance of a salt planet, why would you think it stopped there? Because I would think they were evacuating to the planet. You may be wondering why I've gone so long without mentioning Rey and Luke. Truth be told, I don't think they have much to do with anything. As far as I'm concerned, their whole arc can be summed up in this one bit.
Go away.
Okay, bye.
Kylo Ren also feels like an add-on. This movie is about Poe, Holdo, and Hux. The whole Luke, Rey, and Kylo thing belongs in a different movie. So, I'll do a bit that feels like it belongs in a different review. Rey is better in this one because at least she has a goal. She wants to be a Jedi. And she has some flaws. She's impulsive, she's kind of clumsy. She can't handle seeing a man with his shirt off.
Do you have something, a cowl or something you could put on?
I mean, really. Growing up on Jakku, do you really think she hasn't seen worse than that? We even see some rare moments of vulnerability from her when she goes on board Snoke's ship. The problem is, she doesn't have to overcome any of those flaws in order to achieve her goal. An interesting version of Rey would have been one who learned quickly, but was a little bit cocky about it, earning the irritation of those who struggled. Then, after experiencing Snoke's power firsthand and realizing how far she has to go, she eats some humble pie, giving her a place to grow from in the next movie. I know I'm not the first to say it, but the characters who stick with us are the ones who have to make hard realizations about themselves and grow from those realizations. That is not Rey. Ooh, ASMR cave. As for Luke, his arc is mostly about his background with Kylo and his fear that he'll make the same mistakes with Rey. In a nutshell, he saw great darkness in Kylo and briefly considered killing him. He lit up his lightsaber and then changed his mind, but it was too late. Kylo woke up and caught him, possibly because lightsabers produce light and noise, two things that tend to wake people up. A lot of people dislike this scene, saying if Luke saw the good in Darth Vader, why can't he see the good in Kylo? Let's not forget that before Luke had mercy on Vader, he wailed on his ass with a lightsaber, even going so far as to cut off his hand. I don't care about Bodark, Dad! Luke has demons. I don't have a problem with Luke briefly entertaining dark thoughts. My problem is that the movie tells us Luke was wrong to see only evil in Kylo, but shows us that he was 100% right. Every step of the way, Kylo is a shitheel. Yes, he chooses to spare Rey's life when he could easily kill her, but that's only because he wants her to join him. As soon as she doesn't, he goes right back to being an ass. Meanwhile, in Subplot City, Finn and Rose go to Canto Bites to meet their codebreaker, and it's basically just an upscale version of Mos Eisley Cantina. They've even got a version of Cantina Band from the original Star Wars playing over the speakers. It's also built so close to a racetrack that the hoofbeats of the kangaroo rabbit horses shake the ground it's built on, causing drinks to spill all over the bar and probably a lot of problems at the craps table. Boxcars, you win! Nope, Snake Eyes, you lose. Meanwhile, there's a little drunk alien putting coins into BB-8's coin slot, which apparently exists. Isn't it funny? Finn and Rose find the Master Codebreaker and then promptly get arrested. The Master Codebreaker is never seen again. Good thing they found him. BB-8 gets thrown out of the bar, and Finn and Rose get thrown into Casino Prison, where they don't confiscate technology or give you prison clothes. Does casino security even have a right to make arrests like this? Why does BB-8 get thrown out while the others get imprisoned? How does any of this work? But I guess we'll just hand-wave that away too. This is where we meet DJ, a morally ambiguous codebreaker with exactly the skills they need, a key to the prison, and a voice like Simple Jack, who was apparently waiting for some cellmates before he made his escape. BB-8 fires the drunk alien's coins at the guards, meaning the coin slot is actually a weapon that uses coin-sized discs as ammo. He takes out the guards while Rose and Finn escape to the stables, where they ride the kangaroo rabbit horses to safety. And it's this scene where we see that Finn has some really impressive horseman skills. I'm just kidding. He's still the comic relief sideshow he's always been. Does this scene further the story? No. They coincidentally meet DJ and BB-8 shortly afterward, meaning there was no point in them even being separated. But is it exciting to watch? Also no. But it gave us a fun Free Willy moment, and in the end, isn't that what Star Wars is really about?
FN 2187. So good to have you back.
So they did not put Phasma in the trash compactor? Because I distinctly remember Han saying something about putting her in the trash compactor.
Is there a garbage chute? Trash compactor?
And if they didn't do that with her, then what did they do with her? How did she or any of the villains survive the destruction of Starkiller Base? I want answers! Finn and Rose get captured and find out DJ cut a deal with the First Order. Wow, you just can't trust anybody these days. The remaining Resistance fighters evacuate the cruiser in shuttles, except for Holdo, who stays behind to take the cruiser into lightspeed. Autopilot apparently not being a thing. I'll admit, this is a cool scene though, and it leads to Finn killing Phasma, which is satisfying to watch. Reuniting with his best buddy Finn, Poe wastes no time in asking,
Where's my droid?
Really? Where's my droid? The inanimate object is the thing you're most concerned about? When I first saw these crystal foxes, my thought was, how does something like that even evolve? Fuck Mandalorian and Grogu. That's the Star Wars movie I want. A mockumentary about the evolution of crystal foxes. Make it happen, Disney. The Resistance fighters hide inside an abandoned base, figuring they're safe until they realize the technologically advanced First Order has a battering ram. And now we see Finn, a man whose enemies designated him FN 2187, a serial number for a disposable product. Finn, a man properly named by his first ever friend, Poe Dameron, a Resistance fighter who also gave him a greater gift, trust. Finn, once a cowardly deserter, now a brave warrior, face to face with the enemy, again. A man who knows what's at stake, and that the time for running has passed. The fate of the Resistance on his shoulders, he sacrifices his life for what matters. No, I'm bullshitting you. Rose crashes into him and knocks him out of the sky to save his life. So Luke makes like Bart Simpson and creates a diversion while what's left of the Resistance escapes, after realizing they are all that's left of the Resistance.
Right.
I know.
Finn talks about you a lot. Never knows where you are, though. The funny thing is, the movie treats this like a happy ending. This is a devastating loss. Everybody on that ship is lucky to be alive. Their only choices now are hail the First Order and find another galaxy to live in. Oh, but that's not the ending, because we still have this weird ending with the slave kids. Are they starting a crossover called Stranger Wars? I can't think of a better reason this isn't here. In my Force Awakens review, I said the next step was a more powerful superweapon than Starkiller Base. I meant this movie. It's a complete mess that contradicts itself at every turn. It ignores basic storytelling principles. Yes, it subverted expectations, but if I order a bowl of ice cream and I'm served a bowl of shit, I'm not impressed just because my expectations were subverted. That's what happened here. Next up is Rise of Skywalker, and we'll see if that one makes things better. Which Star Wars movie do you think is the worst? Do you like Holdo? Is there something positive about this movie that I overlooked? Let me know in the comments. If you would like to be closer to the action, please consider checking out our Patreon. If you liked this video, give us a like. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Not just a